Welcome to Movies That Matter, the podcast about movies that goes beyond basic film criticism to boldly explore a social issue affecting people's lives. I'm Nicole Finari, and with me today is...
Justin Davis.
Justin! Brand new co-host of the podcast. Welcome, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're looking forward to many more episodes. And what movie are we overanalyzing this week?
We're overanalyzing Jordan Peele's Nope.
Right, so written, directed, and produced by the great Jordan Peele, two siblings, played by Daniel Kaluuya and Keke Palmer, run a California horse ranch, and they discover something wonderful and sinister in the skies above, and the owner of an adjacent theme park tries to profit from the mysterious, otherworldly phenomenon. So, what did you think?
I really liked the film.
Did you?
Yes. At first, when I was watching it, I was trying to see, well, where's he going with this? Because the opening with, like, the Old Testament verse, I wasn't even familiar with that book.
I was like, is that a real quote?
I had to look this up afterwards. And,
yeah.
And I took a course in college on the Old Testament, and I was like, I don't remember reading this book.
I mean, I have no biblical knowledge whatsoever, so for a minute I was like, is this a fake out?
Yeah, I was thinking that too, but in retrospect, that opening quote made a ton of sense for like what the movie was going for.
Yeah. I found it was a little bit of a mixed bag for me, and part of this is my fault, but part of it I feel like is Jordan Peele's fault, which was I couldn't follow the movie. I got really confused. And that all hinges on one very minor element, which is the stupid shoe.
Okay.
So, it's, one very common sci-fi trope when aliens are, like, in the vicinity is the loss of power. Okay, They did that one. But another one is, like, loss of gravity, right?
Right.
So, the whole movie, I was like, oh, the shoe standing up meant that the aliens were around and they, like, possessed the monkey. And so my whole conception of the movie got, like, derailed by one stupid detail. And so I kept waiting to see the connection between the chimp and the aliens, which was not at all the purpose of that scene. So then I came out of the movie and I was like, I am so confused.
It's interesting. I didn't have that thought at all about the shoe. I just looked at it to me, it just seemed like a thing that was just out of place there. But I wasn't thinking anything sinister. But it in retrospect, when I thought more about the movie, it seemed that it made sense for Jupe's character to be just focused on that, so he wasn't making eye contact with Gordy.
Which is the point of that, right? I realized later, but like, so it was weird because I spent the whole movie going like, I'm not following what's going on because my mind was trying to make a connection that didn't exist and not seeing the connection of the not making eye contact thing. So I feel like that's partly on me, but it's partly on Jordan Peele because there was no reason for that shoe to be standing straight up, but... That is neither here nor there. But, I mean, overall, like, I wasn't bored. I was sort of into the action. So, on sort of, like, the cinema stuff, just a different kind of alien. I appreciated that.
Same here. In retrospect, I was thinking, wow, he could have almost advertised this as Alien Jaws. Yeah. like that's, at least to me, kind of what was going for, especially the third act, like reminded me of towards the end of Jaws. But yeah, I thought it was a very unique take on the whole like alien invasion genre, and I was glad to see that. Like the fake out kind of about halfway through the movie with like the kids. I was like, are we really going to do like the signs thing? And it's like, no, it's not that. So okay, let's see where this is really going. And I appreciated him taking that take with it.
Me too. I mean, the only thing with the kids was like, then he like punches one of them. And I was like, look, I mean, I'm a Star Trek kid. I'm like, why do we always assume the aliens are malevolent? Like, what if they come in peace? So that's a little thing of like, I don't like when we just like automatically assume aggression. Like, in this case, it was warranted, but fine. Like, you needed to see that. Like, shoot first, ask questions later with our first extraterrestrial, I feel like it's not going to go down well in the whole, like,
Yeah.
universe of other alien species who are now PO'd at us.
Right. Well, I really like, too, that it wasn't a humanoid or bipedal alien like that. That made it a lot more interesting and, lack of a better word, alien.
No, I agree. And I feel like, good Lord, I was thinking as I was going into it, I was like, man, I feel like every permutation of an alien has been done. Like, I thought Arrival did a pretty good job of trying to come up with something new, alien-y, but I was just like, what are we going to do here? And I was like, oh, that was novel. Like, fair enough.
Yeah, and I also really appreciated, too, how throughout the movie, there was elements of foreshadowing, which I didn't realize at the time. Like, when you see, at the very beginning, when OJ's out there with his dad, played by Keith David, on the horse, and the stuff starts falling out the sky, and I'm like, well, what's going on here? Like, okay, clearly this is relevant to the movie, but then you realize later, oh, this was because the alien, like, this is what it couldn't digest, and, like, that's what it's falling out. But it's, it kind of set the tone.
Yeah, so I was thinking as I was coming out of the movie, I was like, we're going to have to record this, and I'm going to have to use no curses to describe the fact that the alien took a giant dump, we'll go with, on their house. I was like, oh man, it just took a giant dump on their house. That's so gross. Excreted is another way to put it, but I was like, I mean, let's call it what it is. So as like a Western, I felt like, the shots, the cinematography was credible. It was fine. There were some like kind of homages to classic Western movies, like the man on the horse and the cowboy hat. I was like, all right, I'm here for you. To me, though, the house just looked like a backlot.
I didn't give a whole lot of thought to that aspect of it. But now that you mention it, yeah, it did kind of stand out. Like,
it didn't integrate to the rest of the scenery.
No.
And it could well have been filmed on location, and I don't know, but it looked like a backlot.
Are you talking about just the interior or the exterior?
The exterior as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's funny.
It looked really fake to me.
I guess that's just something that I didn't focus on a ton when I was watching the film. Like, I appreciated the cinematography and a lot of shots, but the stuff that I really liked about though was all like outdoor, like really like widescreen. So I saw it in IMAX when I feel that's a very, I recommend people go see it in that format just because it's shot in a way where like especially when it's outdoors and like the vistas and things, like it just looks really stunning in that format. Yeah,
let me just add, the movie's not scary enough that you can't see it in IMAX. It's not that scary. Right. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
For those of us who are like me, who are like, I don't know, IMAX might be a step too far. It won't be. You'll be fine. Okay. Yeah. I think the cinematography would definitely look a lot better. So like that element I thought was a fail for me, and the chimp was definitely a complete CGI fail for me. I was like, that really needed to be a practical effect.
Yeah, but I agree with that. And my but is that, well, given how Gordy was behaving, I could see why maybe they didn't want a live chimp.
Prosthetic? I mean, I don't know. I like, they do pretty good puppets these days. Yeah. I was like, it just didn't come off. And there's that moment when he's like, you are almost looking in his eyes. And I'm like, nope. Yeah. It's not happening for me. It looks like a computer. It didn't.
Yeah, what's that term? Is it the uncanny valley? Yes, uncanny valley. I did feel that as well with the scenes with like the chimp. Yeah,
but I thought it was an interesting throwback to the like Westerns too. They did the full credits at the beginning of the movie. Like the old style, 1950s, like where all the things were on the screen before the movie started. I was like, that was an interesting sort of cinematic choice.
I think that was kind of got into some of the themes that he was going for, at least to me, how I immediately saw in the movie, where to me it was like legacy was a big thing. And so it's kind of like this homage towards like, like you said, Westerns before. And I definitely like Westerns as a genre. I feel like it's a very American sort of genre, but this was a good like sci-fi horror Western take.
Yeah, I would. So we've had many discussions, me and various movie people, about like what constitutes horror and what constitutes a thriller, like where that line is. And I would say this isn't quite scary enough for me for it to be truly horror, but that, you know, people's mileage different. But I'm the most fraidy cat of all the hosts, so.
Yeah, I guess thriller might be a better term for it, because when I think horror, it's like, to me, I felt like Get Out and Us were more horror than this film was. I
mean, I haven't seen Us because I thought it was probably too scary for me.
Yeah, there's definitely, it's a lot creepier, I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Just like, I mean, to me, the creature, or where I guess Jean Jacket, was not the most scary thing in this movie to me.
What was?
Well, to me, I think the scariest thing was just, well, at least what I could relate to was people, you know, kind of feeling almost like lost where they were in life, like looking for like a like that's kind of like like maybe horror is not the right word, but that is something that's like people can connect to and relate to, where they're like, oh, hey, I'm trying, you know, OJ's trying to make the ranch still work and he can't. His sister, M, she's, you know, trying to get her big break. These are things that are driving people throughout the movie. And in a way, I guess it's, you know, just kind of like that feeling of, hey, where do I fit into things, or what's like going off my life? Like, that's kind of like scary thing.
Yeah, and I guess as that sense of struggle in the deck sort of being stacked against you, as in like nothing ever comes up.
Right.
Your number, you know, I can see that. I did notice, and so I read the reviews. We always do sort of our homework. I feel like I'm the only one who noticed the, like, so you have the flags, but there was a lot of use of, like, foreshadowing with, like, very bright, shiny rainbow objects. So, you know, you had the dancers, like, as they're approaching the ranch, right? I don't know what those are called. They call them the dancers.
Like the almost, I call it like the used car lot. Like,
yeah, the auto,
yes,
the auto car inflatable people who, like, swish around. But so they're all rainbow colored in a trajectory. When Jupe is sitting under the table in Gordy's scene, there's, like, I guess because left over from the party, there's, like, a rainbow streamer that's, like, swirling on the wall.
Oh, wow, I missed that.
Next to him, and then, you know, the rainbow balloons popping or what set Gordy off. Yeah, so this is my problem with the shoe. I'm very good at hanging on to visual clues, and then my mind just makes too much of them, apparently, and goes off on a tangent. So I thought that was really interesting into playing into his theme of spectacle, like, how drawn we are to, like, bright, shiny, colored objects, like, and there was just so much rainbow colored things throughout, like, again, like, really minor details, which is one of the things I really appreciate about Jordan Peele, is, like, he always is so good with the craftsmanship of every scene. So I really liked that. I didn't see that come up a lot. I thought some of the lighting was really beautiful. There were just moments where, like, Keke Palmer's face, or especially Daniel Kaluuya with much darker skin, you could just see, like, a highlight on his nose, or a highlight, you know, like, he would be in the dark and they would just have this, like, soft glow of his face. And I was like, I thought that was so beautifully lit.
Yeah, I did notice that, like, just the way he filmed the movie. It definitely was, I don't want to say bright's not the right word, vibrant, like the way the colors were. And I think that probably has to do with the fact that, you know, Jordan Peele's a black man, realizing, like, hey, you know, giving conscious effort to that with, like, the black actor, so that, you know, they, you know, kind of pop more on screen. Yeah,
no, and I think that's something that Hollywood took a long time to catch up to. We had talked about this, I think I forget which episode, that, like, I found out that, you know, if you watch Mississippi Burning, they say, like, it's the reason that Sidney Poitier is, like, sweating buckets through that whole movie is not because it's hot in Mississippi, but because they had these, like, intense Klieg lights on him the whole time.
Oh, wow.
To get the lighting to match as the only sort of black person on camera.
That's, wow. I just thought, like, hey, it's hot. It's in the South. I mean, my family's from the South. I know you're outside. You will sweat. Down there.
Definitely. And so, yeah, I wish I could credit where I read that. But, you know, I think that there has been a lot of press. And again, all starting with Get Out, in terms of, like, how actors with different skin tones are sort of filmed and lit and shot. And I think, you know, that is what you get from having more diversity in your crew. And as, you know, leading up the film is that you get those sorts of like, let's make use of what we have in an interesting way. And I really appreciated that. But, you know, longtime fans of Movies That Matter also know that Daniel Kaluuya is probably my favorite actor alive right now.
He's really good. Yeah. I can't think of a role where I thought he did a bad job. Sometimes I don't like the characters. Like, I didn't like his character in Black Panther, but that's a credit to his acting that I was like, I really can't stand this guy.
I mean, he is, and this is such an English thing too. That's not to say that American actors can't do it, but it's more common among English actors to just be such a chameleon, to be so utterly different, right? Like, he's played like gangsters, he's played like the really dumb guy in Slim and Queen, and he's, you know, here he was just sort of this taciturn, kind of grumpy character. He's like, there's nothing he can't do.
Right. I mean, he was fantastic as Fred Hampton and was it Judas in the Black Messiah? Like, I thought he was like amazing in that role, but he played a totally different character in this film, and but he really nailed it. Although I thought the best performance was Keke Palmer. Like, to me, I thought she stole the show. Like, I just really liked that character and how she, like, everyone did a really good job, I thought, but I thought she was, like, just really owned that character.
Okay. Tell me why.
She just brought, like, a certain, like, energy and dynamic. And I guess part of it, too, was, so I watched the film with my sister, and I definitely related to the brother sister. Like, I'm the older brother, she's the younger sister. Like, no, we don't, our dynamic's not exactly the same, obviously, as, like, OJ's and M's, but I could relate to, like, the dynamic that they had as far as, like, just that brother-sister bond. And, yeah, it just, I guess, you know, she to me, kind of acted how I would expect, like, you know, the younger sister to kind of be. But she was also, you know, really trying to find her own place and, like, process, I think, the death of their father in her own way. And I really liked it. And the fact, too, that she got the Oprah shot at the end, I thought that was like, you know, hey, okay, you know, people finally did get some wins. Well, at least some of the people got wins. Yeah.
I didn't like Keke Palmer, and I had the same complaint about Lil Ray when Get Out. I felt like the contrast was too much. It's not that I didn't like Keke Palmer. That's not fair. I think she did an excellent job. I just thought her comedy was so broad in contrast to Daniel Kaluuya's, like, it was so restrained. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I felt like they were in two different movies. Like, there was too big a swing into how they were playing their roles for me. And I thought, and I had the exact same complaint about Get Out. I was like, he's too comedic for how serious this movie is. She did sort of rein it in as the movie went on, and I really appreciated that. But honestly, like, the sleeper steal the show to me was Angel.
Yeah, he was.
Because I thought he pitched his comedy like a little less broad than hers. Like, he had some funny bits, and I thought he was amazing, and he was my, like, relatable character.
Okay. Yeah, I thought he was funny, especially when he was talking about his ex-girlfriend. Like, that scene was kind of funny to me because I've definitely been in situations where I'm talking with, you know, guy friends about, they're like, yeah, you know, and like I was like, oh, I've definitely been OJ in this situation before.
Well, I feel like even beyond that, like, it's the even not your friends, like, you know, he's just like a service person, and you're like, you know, you go up to buy something somewhere and someone starts, like, chatting your ear off, or an Uber driver sometimes, and you're like, whoa, I actually didn't want your whole life.
I did not sign up for this. Like, can you just go install these cameras?
And you can tell they're just, like, they're lonely, they're bored, their job isn't that great. And I did feel like the second he was in the nighttime of the store, I was like, he definitely is gonna watch their cameras. There's no way he didn't copy that signal. I was like, I was so predictable and great. And just, yeah, I thought he just added that sort of kind of third, like, part of a triangle for them, where he was sort of playing off of both of their energy really well. And I thought I don't think I would have liked the movie as much if he hadn't been in it. And I thought he did a really good job. And I was like, oh, I'm kind of sad that no one pointed out what a good job he did.
Yeah, he was good as well. I did appreciate too how he helped move the plot forward some too, where he recognized, at least to me, it seemed like he was the first one to identify that that cloud wasn't moving, probably because he was being slightly voyeuristic watching their cameras. But yeah, that was like a good thing to just kind of help push the movie forward.
Yeah, I also loved it immediately. The cinematographer showed up and was like, "That cloud doesn't move."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, because somebody who's a cinematographer would be someone who would recognize that. You know what I was like, that was a nice nod to the true work that cinematographers do. I really appreciated that. He was he was there. That gravelly voice did a lot of work.
Oh yeah, and I appreciated too how with the cinematographer. Speaking of foreshadowing, like in the background when he was going through, I guess stuff he had previously filmed or somebody else, but it was a lot of like predators and prey.
Oh yeah,
like I was like, oh okay, I see. That
was a little on the nose for me, but fair enough. So on the costume design, I thought they did a good job. Like it's pretty subtle throughout the movie how OJ's character, like he's in like total like farmhand plaid. At some point he loses the baseball cap. He starts to like get cooler or like more modern.
That's a great point. Yeah, because he does have like that country like ranch hand or like farm working man outfit early on in the film. But by the end, in the final scene, he's got the Scorpion King hoodie. And I'm trying. Was he wearing a cowboy hat at the end?
No.
Okay.
He's hatless for the rest of the movie.
Okay.
I forget the point where it's important to the film, and I forget when it happened. When his cap gets knocked off, but then he doesn't have a hat, and it's like you kind of see his. I took it to be sort of a symbol of the progression from a Western movie to like a sci-fi movie. Like we got more sort of modern-ish and sort of more stylized, cool, however you want to put it. But I was like, that was a subtle touch. Good job on the costume director's part.
I also appreciate, speaking of costume, with the TMZ report with like the very shiny, bright, kind of like chrome motorcycle helmet.
That was freaking me out.
Yeah, it was pretty creepy, especially like the eye hole, but it just definitely like stood out where I'm just like, oh, okay, this is clearly someone who's like not gonna be, but like it almost kind of reminded me of like the outfits of like the like Daft Punk would wear, or like in like Tron Legacy, like just kind of like that very like sci-fi like look with like the helmet.
Oh, see, and that's interesting. Also true, but I took it to be, it seemed like such a 1950s throwback. Was it?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if that was it the day the Earth stood still?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
yes, I think it was the day the Earth stood still, and I was like, again, there was a lot of like little, for a movie kind of about movies, right? Mm-hmm. There was those little elements, which I really appreciate, like, the homages to Westerns, and I took that as a total the day the Earth stood still, like, reference. I have that movie right. If not, it was another 1950s sci-fi movie. So like, I would say, yeah, like, overall, I think for a Jordan Peele movie, it was up to, like, his high standard. Any other, like, final cinematic notes we didn't hit before we get into the thematic discussion?
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
Well, I guess, one thing I did think was pretty cool, and I don't know if so much thematic, but just, especially in IMAX, like, at the very end when, like, when Jean Jacket, like, fully, like, unfurls, and, like, it's another very bright rainbow color, like, spectacle, and it made me think, too, of just how, like, I guess you have references of, like, how some people believe biblical angels would have been described. Like, it kind of seemed more like that, where it's, like, a very, like, almost majestic, but, like, kind of, like, awesome, like, in the actual definition of the word. Like, kind of inspires, like, fear, dread, but also, like, it's just this amazing thing to, like, look at.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think there is a sense of, it's a predator for sure, but it's, you see the cinematographer look at tigers and, like, it's just doing what it's,
right.
Like, it's just doing what it's meant to be doing. Like, it ends up being a malevolent presence, but it's not, I guess, like, in contrast to Alien, you know, where it's, like, this big evil monster that is, like, stalking them. Yeah,
it wasn't the xenomorph kind of, like, stalking. Like, this was more of, like, a Jaws type thing, where it's like, oh, this is, like, kind of a majestic creature, but also it will kill you.
Yeah. Also, we're going to need a bigger boat. Yeah, I thought, again, but then I got sort of confused by the unfurlingness. I was like, is something going to happen? Why is it unfurling? Why is it in a different shape? But yeah, I think your point about making it awesome and sort of a quote unquote bad miracle, right? Mm-hmm. It's the word for a bad miracle. So, I mean, the movie kind of, I feel like the movie, and correct me if I'm wrong, like, the movie kind of doesn't know how to take a position on spectacle, which I appreciated, right? It's a movie. He's the director. Like, that's what he, you know, like, that's what he's making his money on. And it's like, when is it bad? When is it good?
That's an excellent observation, because you might initially think, oh, it's clearly bad. Like, you see what happens to the people with Jupiter's Claim. But at the same time, OJ and M want to get this along with Angel, and I am forgetting the cinematographer's name.
Antlers.
Yeah, Antlers.
I heard Anders the whole movie, so I looked it up. It's Antlers. Who knew?
But like, they're also trying to capture the spectacle, and you know, they keep talking about, you know, the Oprah shot. Like, they want to obviously, like, profit off of this, and I mean, I don't knock them for it. I mean, this thing is causing them all sorts of grief and heartache. Like,
killed their dad.
Yes. Like, they have
inadvertently, again, taking a dump.
But they justifiably have reasons to be, you know, upset, and, like, you know, they're processing their situation. But you're right. Like, I was still rooting for them to, like, you know, capture the spectacle. But so I guess the question is, like, what does that say about me as the viewer, that, like, you know, I'm like, oh, these people are bad for doing it, but these people are good for doing it, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, I guess part of it hinges on if you think what Antlers did was noble or foolish.
Yeah, at first I was kind of confused by what was going on. And, like, my initial interpretation of it was like, oh, this guy's kind of, like, gone off the deep end. But then it's like, no, maybe he's just been spending his whole life searching for this perfect shot. He's like, I'm going to get it, but it's, you know, you've been sucked up, and, like, you got a perfect shot, this incredible shot, but no one's ever going to see it.
Yes, I will.
Really? Oh, but I thought the camera got destroyed.
Yep. Well, I mean, it's going to dump, right?
Oh, well, yeah, good
That
point.
was my assumption, that he knew it was going to...
Oh, I see. Okay.
Poop it back. Again, trying very hard not to use the S word here. Yeah. Like, poop it back out, because everything kind of came out intact, right?
Yeah, you're right. Anything they couldn't digest it. Oh, wow, I never thought about that.
Yeah, so it was like, to me, you have all these different perspectives of what it means to be, like, an auteur and an audience, and you have, like, the cinematographer who is willing to literally, like, die for his art. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was, to me, I took it as noble, and I feel like that was somewhat of Jordan Peele's intention, to say, like, he, you know, for him, it was worth the ultimate sacrifice.
Okay, that paints Antlers in a better light, because at first I was thinking, when he was...
It was just dumb.
Well, not even just dumb, but before I realized he was trying to get another shot, I'm like, oh, he got the shot. He's like, all right, deuces, I'm going to go make all this money, sucker. So I was like, man, what is this guy? This guy is not good. But then I realized, oh, no, he's trying to, like, capture this, like, you know, spectacle.
Right. And I think, you know, the TMZ guy comes in for it for being negative, right?
Oh, yes, very much so. I was rooting for this guy to get his just dessert. When the way he was, you know, acting, and I was like, well, I think we all know how this is about to end.
Yeah, so I guess to me it's like the movie kind of covers a few different perspectives of spectacle is art, and the people who are really just trying to do something with their lives that they think is worthwhile. Spectacle is commerce, right? Mm-hmm. Which does not come in, for the most part, all those people die, right? Like, the TMZ guy dies, Dupe dies, all the audience dies, like, and then sort of, I think the siblings, the main characters, are sort of, well, so OJ and M are sort of caught in the, this is the world that we live in, we might as well make money off of it,
Right.
right? Like it's definitely not their preferred way to do things, but they are sort of in this like,
these are the cards I've been dealt. I got to play this hand.
Exactly. And Angel is sort of trying to justify it as like, maybe we could help people. We could let people know that this like malevolent force is out there and maybe other people can be protected, which, you know, with the name Angel, I guess. He seems the most sort of like wanting to help other people. However, like absolutely in it for himself in the sense of like, dude just really wants to see an alien. Like,
yeah.
And like, again, like you kind of like, that's why we're in the position we're in, right? Because there's a lot of us who look at paparazzi photos or follow TMZ and it's like, okay, you're complicit in a really terrible system, right?
Well, and that's kind of the irony too of how to avoid being, you know, swallowed up and like chewed up and spit out by the by Jean Jacket. It was to not look at it, and it feels like maybe that's kind of a commentary, as you just mentioned, how people like to consume like paparazzi photos. Like, well, if there wasn't an audience for it, then you know people would. You would be able to avoid it. So,
all right, mic drop. We're done. This is a good podcast. I totally didn't. Wow, I totally didn't see that. You're completely right. Right, like you choose what your platform is. You choose, who gets the money and for what. I think that's true. And again, like, I don't know, my perspective is like, he wasn't sure, like, not all spectacle is bad.
Right. And I think the movie did do a good job conveying. Ambiguity is probably not the right word for that.
Nuance?
Yes, nuance of just the nature of spectacle. Like, clearly, it's like a lot of things, you know, it can be really good and also really bad, you know, like. Yeah.
Well, and this made me think of two things, one more recently in the news and one in the distant past. So I'll go with the farther back one. Did you watch the video of George Floyd?
No, I've never watched that video. As a black man, I've seen enough in the world where I was like, I'm good on watching, like, you know, I don't want to say if you've seen one, you've seen them all, but for me personally, I said, I'm not going to, me watching that was not going to do anything of like value for me. But I understand why other people want to watching it, but I've just felt like there's no need for me to watch it.
Okay. Do you understand why other people?
I understand why a lot of people, I mean, sure that people have various reasons for watching it, but I do think for a lot of people, things aren't real until they actually see it, like visually. Like it just has a bigger impact on people. Okay.
So, I didn't watch it either. I mean, again, I sleep with the lights on after watching it. There was like hella no way I was going to watch that video. I can't handle things like that. But I did, and I felt like really conflicted about the fact that people were passing it around and other people were watching it. And I think this is something the movie doesn't get into as much. But to me, part of it was, I could think of all of George Floyd's loved ones thinking, this is how now the world knows him, the worst last moment of his life. And that if it was somebody that you cared about, would you want all these people just like watching them die? Like how hard? So there was like a personal level that I was like, ugh. But then, I mean, I think ultimately you're right. Like, unfortunately, people needed to see that. They needed to see Rodney King get the tar beaten out of him for real change to happen and for it to enter people's consciousness. But it's like, I'm uncomfortable.
And even in a non-video version of this, and it's just something I've seen kind of recently, you know, in the news, it's cropped up how I think there's a project about to come out, but how Emmett Till's mother made the decision to have the open casket funeral because she wanted to work. Like, in a way, that's a form of spectacle if you think about it, but it's to tell people, like, no, this is what happened. And people just respond very almost viscerally to, like, visual, I think, evidence of things.
No, and that's a perfect historical example of this as well. So there's and again, I think the movie kind of wrestles with that. Like, where's that line? Like, do you need to see it really? Like, what does it make you complicit in, and where does that leave us as a society when we look at these terrible, violent things as spectacle and as quote unquote entertainment? There are times when we're the better for it, but there are times when we're the worse for it. Mm-hmm. And I'm personally uncomfortable with it, but it's not my decision to make. But it scares me for the people who look at it as spectacle and don't treat it with the like gravity and reverence, frankly, that type of stuff deserves.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, I want to live my life where I'm not, the person in the Roman Colosseum cheering gladiators, like killing, like that sort of like thing. Where,
right.
But like, there's definitely an element of that where people sometimes want to tune into these things for like that sort of reason. Like, it's that same.
Yeah, human instinct.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, like watching public executions. And then to that end, I thought it was interesting. This hit me really hard personally. So I was listening to the NPR coverage. They released the video of the Uvalde police standing around, doing.
Yep, that's another video I haven't watched.
Doing nothing. Well, in the report, in the story that I heard, they said they edited. I'm laughing because I'm uncomfortable. They edited out the children's screams.
Yep. And I understand from the journalistic perspective why they did that, but at the same time, you think, like, if you're going to show this, people maybe need, like, the full... but it's one of those tough things, because maybe the families, those children or victims obviously don't want that, and that's totally understandable. And who am I to, like, question, like, what they want, how they want it, but... these are when you start making that decision of like what you're going to show, but then like, well, we're making this editorial decision. I'm like, well, you're definitely taking a stance on these things, even though you ostensibly portray yourself as being neutral. Like, those editorial decisions you're putting your thumb on a scale.
Right. Yeah. No, I definitely, and that was like, so my first two thoughts coming out of the movie when it was like, where are we complicit? What is our responsibility to look at or not look at? Again, I think that the movie was such an interesting commentary for our times on that stuff, because I think that watching things and the, virality of certain moments has really led to a lot of social change. And I thought it was interesting that Jordan Peele, again, as a filmmaker, somebody who obviously loves spectacle, right? Like, yes. What else is a movie but spectacle? Sort of held that mirror up. And I was kind of glad that he had the nuance and he didn't necessarily come to like any firm conclusions on like it's context dependent, it's individually dependent.
Yeah, I think he trusts his audience to be sophisticated or intelligent enough to maybe think about what he's presenting to them and and interpret it themselves. At least that's my probably generous take on it.
No, I think actually that's a good point. Like, I mean, for all my complaints about I Got Lost, like, again, a lot of that was on me, and I do appreciate a director who doesn't over explain and have a lot of boring exposition and just like, keep up. If you fall behind, that's on you. Like, I'm not gonna over explain anything or make this easy for you, like, because a lot of that stuff gets boring to me. So I think it's a really good point about him as a director. He's like, keep up or get lost. Like, my movies are not for you.
Yeah. I guess another thing too that I mentioned earlier that really jumped out to me was as far as a motivation. Like, I thought he did kind of emphasize the concept of legacy.
Yeah.
Throughout the film, it's like where they show the film of the black horse rider, talking about the the original motion picture, and M saying, that was our great or however many great grandfathers, and in a sense, I felt like you had multiple characters throughout the movie, like trying to either create their own legacy or live up to somebody's legacy. Like, OJ's trying to, he's his name, he's Otis Jr. Like,
right.
He's literally a junior. The fact that they named the creature Jean Jacket because that was how she was supposed to train the horse, and it's clear that left a huge impact on her as a child. The fact that, like, how that situation played out, and I think she obviously had some resentment towards her father about that, and understandably so.
Yeah, no, and I think I think it's interesting to me, too, like the intersection of the themes in that the idea of legacy and spectacle, it's who's made a spectacle of, who got erased from history by not being looked at or counted, right? Like who is sort of erased from history and who gets to make it and who gets named and remembered. And I think that was very much a part of the movie as well. And, you know, like, again, ties into the theme of, like, okay, so, you know, not only were there black cowboys, like, think about where the West is.
Right.
There were a ton of Latino cowboys as well. Like, there were a lot of Mexican cowboys.
My sister made the point, too, at the end, like, if you look at who survives, and it's, like, 2 black people and a Hispanic or Latino man. Like I was like, that didn't go unnoticed to me. They're like, oh, these are the characters who did survive. And, you know, historically, like, marginalized groups in this country. And especially, like, and we were talking about the context of a Western. So I thought that was, like, a nice little touch. Yeah,
I do, too. And I think that, again, you know, like, who we choose to film, you know, it's so funny. Like, a million years ago, like, literally, like, 2001 or whatever, I was dating a guy, and it was, you know, the run-up to the Iraq War, and we were having huge arguments about weapons of mass destruction and all that stuff, and, like, Rush Limbaugh was out there, like, doing his Rush Limbaugh thing. And I remember at the time, the guy I was dating, like, was very clear. He was like, I don't understand. Like, some people just don't get to have a platform. Like, why is Rush Limbaugh, like, why does anybody report on Rush Limbaugh? Why is he ever given a platform? Like, we could just erase him if we all stopped listening, looking, reporting.
But here's the problem with that. There's obviously an audience for that message. I mean, here's a perfect example. Fox News gets rid of Bill O'Reilly, right? You know, he's got his issues, and they say, you got to go. Now they got Tucker Carlson up. There's no shortage of people to replace the Bill O'Reillys and Rush Limbaughs of the world.
I totally agree. But the thing was, like, you know, he made that comment pre-Facebook, right? Pre-social media, right? Again, this was way back in the day. And I think of it later now because I think of the world we live in and how much he predicted, like, how prescient that statement was that, like, we need to be careful about who we give platforms to. And I'm like, oh God, he was right. Like, I didn't strike me at the time. But again, like, when I think about the world we live in now, what we platform, who we look at, who we pay attention to, and who gets into the public eye it really matters. And it's hard to tell people, just like you said, please stop watching Tucker Carlson. As much as I really, 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 really want people to never see Tucker Carlson again, who is an evil, evil, evil troll. Okay, with all that said, this is a good opportunity, since Justin is new to the podcast, to remind us of what, in fact, we mean when we give a social impact score. Short answer, nobody knows. Okay. Well, I mean, we all get to just decide what we mean by our own score anyway. But 1 being this movie was terrible, nobody saw it, it is destined to die in obscurity and or win a Razzie. 10 being life and movies as we know it is forever changed. I can go first if you feel more comfortable, since this is your first social impact score.
Let's do that.
So right before the lights went down, I literally texted, we have a bit of a group chat with the Movies That Matter host. I literally texted them, y'all, there are a lot of people in this theater. That is the most crowded movie theater I've been in 2 years. So I think it's doing pretty well in the box office, but in terms of our microcosm of DC, butts and seats really matters. And it being Jordan Peele, I think it had a lot of really interesting themes, to the extent to which it holds a mirror up to us that none of us want to look in. I don't know, but I think I'm willing to just sort of give it a sort of middle of the road 5, just because I'm not sure in these times, like, who's seeing what movies and where movie. I feel like the ability to have an influence is so muted.
Okay. Well, so like you said, this is my first time going through it. I probably would give it, I'd say maybe around a 6 or 7, somewhere around there. Just because I don't think it's going to be, say, as impactful as Get Out, but I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was great. But from as far as like moving the needle or moving that, I don't think it's, it's not a Get Out, but it's, I think it had some traction. Like the showing I went to was a lot of people. It was a Saturday afternoon matinee, but a lot of people were there, and and it was a good cross section too of just, I felt like, at least DC, like you saw a lot of different. It wasn't just like, oh hey, this is like a black movie where it's like only a black guy. It's like, no, it was a good cross section of like the city that was watching this film.
Well, do you have any recommendations for our Movies That Matter audience?
I do. So I was thinking about if people enjoyed Nope or Get Out. A TV series. It had one season. This was canceled, but I really loved it. It's very sci-fi, some slight horror, thriller, and also social commentary elements with a largely black cast. It was Lovecraft Country. I really, really liked that series.
Yeah, no, good recommendation. I saw it. I liked it. My recommendation, and it's funny because going into this movie, one of the things I was thinking is, like, I have been on a media blackout. Part of what triggered that was watching Dopesick, the multi-series it's a fictionalized account of the opioid crisis in America. It is comprehensive, and that is what I loved about it. All right, we hope you enjoyed this episode. I know you love our new host, Justin. He will be back. If you want to know more about us, we have a website, moviesthatmatterpodcast.com. We've got some merch if you want to do that thing. We've got a Facebook page. We have a Twitter account, which I don't check. Don't talk to us there. We're on YouTube. You can leave a comment on the episode page for this YouTube video of the podcast. Hit us up. We love to hear comments. We love to hear from our audience. And remember, movies matter.
And so do you.
We'll see you next time.